So we're doing pretty well. We've got our top bar of the BBC webpage pretty much down. And we're now going to create this lighter red bar. So it's got a similar setup overall to the top bar, in that we want a 100% div which has a nice background and then a fixed width div within that. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this up here so you can see the whole thing. We're going to copy and paste the whole top bar div, but we're going to get rid of the content, because what we really want is the top bar and the fixed width parts, but we want to call it something else, so let's call it news bar. And let's take the top bar set of instructions there and copy and paste them to the news bar div. Now, just before we look at that, we're going to need to break the floats, because we want this div to be vertically beneath the previous div. We don't want it floated to the left. So see if you can remember how to do that from last time. Did you remember? We put in a div with a certain class, just an empty div, and then we give that class the instruction clear both. Okay, so now if we have a look, see what effect that does. That's great. So we've got a second bar now. Obviously at the moment it's the same color as the first, which we don't want. So I'm going to use my dropper tool again to get the color of that background. There it is. And I'm going to replace the background color of my news bar to that. Let's have a look. Okay, great. Obviously this div is a little bit taller, so let's try a height of 100 pixels. Maybe a little too much. Maybe 80 pixels. Yeah, okay. We'll see how it goes. Okay, great. So we've got our basic structure. That's fine. So now within our first fixed width part of the div, we're going to want to put in news. Now they've used an image there, I think, for the news area, and text for the UK. We'll use text for both. It won't look exactly the same, but it'll be similar enough. So within our fixed width part, we'll have, let's put it just straight away in a p tag. We'll get rid of that. And we'll do it all in capitals /p, apart from the p. And we'll have the UK in a special span. Okay, so we'll call this PID is news header, and span we'll just call it UK. So then we just need to play around with both of those and make them look nice. Okay, so we've got a few issues straight away there. So our news bar P, we're going to want to take away any kind of margin and padding to stop that problem. There we go. So now we've got rid of that gap there. We definitely want to bring it down a fair bit, and the news we want quite a bit larger, and the UK a little bit smaller, but still larger than that. Okay, so I've forgotten what I called it now. News header. So news header. We'll make a font size, let's try 3 EM, see how that looks. Okay, that's actually about right for the news. Great. And for the UK, we want the font size to be, let's try 2 EM. Okay. What that's doing is it's making it too relative to what it would otherwise have been. So the UK actually turns out bigger, so we don't want that. Let's use 0.5 EM. Okay, we've got the right kind of structure now. I think the UK is a little bit too small. So let's make it 0.7. That's about right. Okay, and then all we need now is a little bit of padding. So let's put a bit of padding on the top and a bit of padding on the left as well for news. So I think in the news header we can have some padding on the top. Let's try 10 pixels. I think maybe there already was a padding of 10 pixels. Let's just crank it up to 30 pixels. Sorry. I meant to put it in the news bar P there. Okay, moved it down slightly too far. 15 pixels, okay, a little bit less I think. So that 10 pixels was about right. Okay, and I think we need to move the news slightly to the right. So we'll give it a padding left of, let's try 10 pixels again. Nope, okay. Sorry, let's put it in here instead. Okay, nice. That's just indented it a little bit. Actually, I'm not sure if we want that. No, it can actually be vertically under the BBC. So that's fine. We'll get rid of that padding left. But we definitely do want a padding left or a margin left for the UK, because we want to give them a bit of division between them. So news, UK. That's fine. So you can see they've used a slightly different font here, which is why they've gone for an image. But we're not aiming for perfect reproduction here. I think what we've got is similar enough. Right. So now, before we go on to this menu, let's get this RSS bit looking nice. So what we're going to want to do is have a new div. We'll call it RSS. And the main thing about that div is we want it floated to the right. And we'll put the text RSS in there just to have a look. Okay, great. So that's it's in roughly the right place, but you can see it's put it underneath the P tag there. So to avoid that, let's float the P tag to the left. Great. Okay, so now I've got it at the top. We still need to move it down a bit and make it nice and centered. So let's give it a bit of a margin of, let's try 30 pixels, see how that looks. Oh, that's about right. Okay, that's fine. So we just need to add in the little RSS logo there. I'm just going to take it directly from the page with my screenshotting tool. That'll do. So there it is. I'll call it RSS. And we'll drag it into images there. Bring this back. And back to here. So we want it on the right of the text. So we'll just put it straight in. images/rss.png. Nice. Okay, a little bit too large. So we'll do a bit of CSS for that. So RSS image. And we want the height to be, let's try 16 pixels. Okay, slightly too tall. Let's try 14. Okay, nice. Looking pretty good. Again, not exactly the same, but close enough for our purposes. Right, so we've got the news, UK and RSS bits in there. Actually, I'm just looking at that and thinking the RSS is quite nicely aligned with the bottom of the news and the UK. So I think I'm going to bring it down a little bit, because I think that's quite an important part of the design there. Maybe a little bit further. You can do this more accurately yourself if you like, but I think that's, yeah, that looks nicer. Right, we're going to need a bit more room now, aren't we, beneath the news and the UK to fit this in. So let's increase the height of the news bar. We'll go for 90 pixels for now. Okay, so again, similarly to this menu bar up here, we're going to implement this as a UL list, so unordered list. And let's see how we're going to do that. So we're going to want this beneath what we've just put in there. So we're going to want to break the floats that we've created. Oops, put that in there. And we'll call this topic menu. Okay, and again, we're going to have a UL unordered list and a set of LIs in there. The first one will be home. So without any styling at all, that looks like that. Not ideal. So the main thing we're going to need to do is the same as before. We're going to want to float everything to the left. This time we're going to want a nice background as well. So let's use our color picker to get that color. There it is. And then let's fix topic menu. In fact, I think we'll probably leave that blank for the moment and have topic menu UL. We'll give that the background color. Okay, so we're getting there. We definitely want to get rid of that bullet point there. So we'll have a topic menu LI. Do you remember how to do this? Hope you got it. List style none. Lovely. Now we want to sort out the padding there again. So let's just set the padding and the margin of the UL to be 0. Okay. And then we can put in our own padding later on. How were we with the... I think we want to move that down slightly. So we'll do that in a second. I think we want the text to be a little bit smaller. And we definitely want a bit of padding in the LIs there. So let's try a font size of 0.8 EM and a padding of 4 pixels. Okay, it's getting there. Let's change the padding to 5 pixels. Give it a bit more room. Okay, I think that's pretty close. And as it happens, that actually lines up beautifully with the bottom of our div as well. So that's great. Okay. Now we've got a nice little border again there. This time the border doesn't actually go to the top and bottom of the whole UL. So I think we should just be able to put in the same instruction that we had before, because it looks to me like it's about the same color. Let's make sure that we're floating the li's left. Okay. You can see what's happened there is we've got the padding is in the li. So that means that the border to the right is actually stretching all the way up, which is not quite what we want. So let's put the padding in the UL this time. Or at least the top and left padding in the UL. There we go, we're getting there. We may need to specify no background color there. Okay, we're getting closer. So we need to specify a height for the UL. So let's try a height of 20 pixels. Okay, that looks nice. Now we need to get that color back. For our right border. Great. Now I think we definitely need a little bit more padding on the left and right there. So we'll have padding 0 for the top, and then let's try 10px, 0 at the bottom, and then 10px on the left as well. Okay, now we're getting there. I think that looks pretty nice. Pretty close, maybe slightly too much padding. Let's change it to a 6, both sides. Great. Okay. So I'm now going to copy and paste all of this text to make my other LIs. You can fast forward this bit if you like. It's just going to be a lot of copying and pasting. There we go. So we'll put an LI in front of each of those. And a closing li around each of those as well. And we'll just do some nice indenting. I'm going to copy and paste that as well to move everything in. Okay, nice. Fits pretty well. Looking on the right, there's no border on entertainment and arts there. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a cheeky bit of inline CSS. And we're just going to set the border right property to none. Excellent, that's gone. So the only thing I think we need to change here is we need to add in a different background for this UK to show that the UK is selected there. So let's see what we can do to make that happen. We'll give the UK a special class, a class of selected. And then we'll give it a background color. Looks like white to me, but it might be slightly off-white. So let's just have a look. Yeah, it's slightly off-white. Okay. So now we've got that. We also want to change the text color so that it shows up. So we'll have that dark grey as the text color. Okay, now that's fine, but it's not stretching to the top and the bottom, which is a bit of a shame. So we're going to use a bit of a CSS hack to do that. What we'll do, we'll give it a greater height than the rest. So let's try a height of 20 pixels. So that's stretched out nicely now. It's gone further down, but we're going to need to move it up a little bit as well. So we'll give it a relative position, and let's try moving it up by 5 pixels. Okay, we're getting there. That's slightly too far. Maybe 3 pixels. Let's zoom in to get this really accurate. I think 4 pixels is the sweet spot there. Great, and then we're going to need to add a bit of padding to move that UK down. So we'll have padding top of, let's try 5 pixels again. Right, so what's happening there is that the padding in the general LI is overruling the padding that we want to add in here. Now again, there's a little CSS hack here that should be used very sparingly, but we'll pop it in here. It's the important tag. So if you put an exclamation mark in the word important after any CSS command, then that will override any conflicting commands for the same element. So let's see what effect that has. Okay, so now we've got our padding working nicely, but we don't want it to be that much. We want about 5 pixels. Okay, I think that looks good. And I think we're slightly too large there, so let's change the height to 18 pixels. One too few. There we go. Nice. Okay, I'm actually thinking the padding was slightly too much to move it up slightly, and then we're going to need the height to be back up to 20. Okay, great. So I think that's looking pretty nice. We've got the news, we've got UK, we've got the RSS feed, and we've got the menu at the bottom. Notice I'm not going to include this image in the background. That's because it's a copyright image, and I don't want to be distributing things with copyright images in them. So I'm not going to put that background in, but you can do that as an exercise for yourself if you want to put this background image in the background of this div here. You'll want to look into opacity because you can see they've got a nice effect here that the background image is still visible behind this div here. So my hint for you there is to look into opacity. Please do drop me a line if you manage to do that, and I'll take a look. It'd be great if some people could figure that out. Okay, so we'll stop there again, and I will start again in the next video when we'll be looking at the actual news content of this page.